Hey there, welcome to Seed, Soil, Water. I'm so glad you're here. This channel wouldn't exist without our amazing collective. Check back every Tuesday and Thursday for readings at 10 a.m. Pacific and Friday nights for new Flower and Fire podcast episodes. Be blessed, be well, be free. Greetings, what's good, beloved collective? Okay, so this message, I've tried to record it in a few different ways, and we are going to try one more time to get the revelation across. So this is a reminder about shape shifting based on atmospheric exposure for the beloved collective. We are reminding each other, we are being reminded by the Spirit that we have the capability via the Spirit and also in reality to the relationship that we have with the atmosphere, that we will shapeshift. And this is why it reminds me when people are like, they're a really good person. It's like, what does that even mean, you know? And also, like, the person that I would say is the most damaging, toxic person that I've ever met, I would say that I can see at the core of their being, I can see the God image in them even. Like, so when we say things like, oh, they're a really good person, what does that even mean? For those of us that have divine eyes, we often see right through the garbage into the divine of a person because we can see their soul, the namaste, the divine in me recognizes the divine in you. But that doesn't really mean anything, because if we do not deal with our atmospheric garbage, if we do not deal with the generational strongholds that we inherited, if we do not heal the wounds that we have gathered along the way or that have happened to us or that we have been carrying from generational trauma, it doesn't matter how quote unquote good we are or not. It's a moot point, because it is written that God is no respecter of persons, which means that the exceedingly abundantly far above anything we could ask, think, dream, or imagine, that dream life is available to any of us. And I would say that if you're here under the sound of my voice, if you've been led to this message, then chances are you are one that has, in this timeline, in this lifetime, been called to arise to a divine identity activation. And so if you have not checked out the message that is referencing the Iron Ball, or the Iron Man bubble, the Iron Man ball bubble, that's in the video title, please look back and watch that message. Toward the middle to the end is the revelation that came through about how water can shape shift into different forms, even though the core elements in water remain the same. So water is made of 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen, and when it's exposed to the atmosphere of a freezing temperature, it turns into ice, and it looks like a completely different thing than when it does when it's water. And it's also bound up in a way that it cannot flow now like it did when it was water. And then we also see when water is exposed to high levels of heat, it now turns into steam, and it is no longer flowing like it does, like it was when it's in the form of water. And just like that, we all are what we are. We all are who we are, and yet depending on the atmosphere that we are put into, it may cause our lives to manifest in a completely different way. For example, if somebody has the learned behavior of unhealthy vices, and that was a learned behavior via family or examples that were given, that were shown, like a learned behavior, then that person might have a crazy, amazing divine identity and a great, they might be a quote unquote good person. But if their learned behavior and the way that they've learned to operate in this life is completely toxic and destructive, then it doesn't really matter, like, that their soul is quote unquote good or not. Like, the point is that they're utilizing their free will to be completely toxic and destructive. And we will all be held accountable for the way that we utilize our free will. And we will also be held accountable against the standard that it is available to all of us. So we should take this very seriously. There aren't really excuses once we determine that healing is possible, any timeline is available, and it really is up to us. It really is on us to find the way, find the truth, and find the healing, and call it in. And the beautiful thing is that when you want it and you are willing to quote unquote take up your cross, which means, this is when scripture says, like, God knows the heart. That means, like, you can't fake it with the spirit. If you really want wisdom and you're really living in such a way that you will do that you want it, and that you're going after it, it will be brought to your path. If you really want transformation and you really, really want it, then the pathway will indeed lay out before you. The resources will come. It will become available to you. And then it will be on you to utilize your free will choice to even if you have to suffer a little, like for example, to come off of vices requires a level of suffering, because it's uncomfortable to give up something that we have grown dependent on to get by when it's not good for us. Even if it's not good for us, if it is the thing that we're using as like a band-aid to avoid the surgery kind of thing, then it can involve some level of suffering. Think about a house remodel. Anyone that you know that has ever like remodeled their kitchen, everyone will be like, oh my gosh, I had no idea how much of a mess it was going to be and how involved it was going to be. And it's not this enjoyable process. It is miserable most of the time. It's highly inconvenient. It is a huge sacrifice. It costs money and time and sweat, blood, and tears, probably. But yeah, you get a new kitchen on the other side of it, and then it's usually worth it. So we are going to shape shift. And the way that we shape shift into our divine identity is by setting the atmosphere accordingly in order to cultivate an atmosphere that would then lead to the possibility of those little baby seedlings of divine identity to develop roots, to grow into something strong enough. And we have to protect that space. And the way that we protect the space is just the same way that, a gardener protects tiny little seedlings, is like we put up barriers, we put up boundaries, we tend to it, we return to it. We also don't dig it up too soon. We also don't neglect it. We don't forget to come back to it. It's in rhythm with times and season, intentionality, commitment, devotion, and presence, that we are able to create an atmosphere that is conducive to the activation of divine identity that will allow us to shapeshift into the highest, dreamiest timeline. And the revelation that I received as I was on my way to sleep the other night is that we, just like a computer has software programs, we in our vessel have computer programs running. And all of these computer programs come from various experiences that we may have had even when we were like little babies, pre-verbal. We don't even know how to put it into language because we didn't have language yet to assign to this experience. It might be even things that we've inherited through our lineage. Science shows that memories indeed pass through DNA. Memories pass through DNA. So Science shows that, we know that, and therefore we need to know that we have this subconscious that's operating, and it's running all of these programs. It's kind of like, imagine your computer, how you have programs that are running in the background often. For example, an antivirus you might be having running in the background, and that's good. You want to have some sort of subconscious antivirus running in the background of your being. But there can also be damaging programs. There can also be damaging programs that are running in the background of your being. And this is the whole work, is to identify what are the programs running in your mind, what are the subconscious programs that are running underneath the surface, and how are you going to start dealing with them so that you can cultivate that atmosphere that will usher in the activation and protect the illumination and protect the existence of your divine identity, and allowing the alignment of all of the opportunities that are meant for you via your divine identity. So we can shapeshift into the version of ourselves that lives in that exceedingly abundantly far above anything we could ask, think, dream, or imagine. And there are ways to do this. There are active, proactive, cooperation tools and approaches that we can do that are universal principles that are in alignment with the flow of life, the spirit of life, and that will indeed produce fruit. And it's a multi-pronged approach where we have to uproot the weeds that are not serving us, plant the good seeds that are the ones that we want, nurture the soil, tend to the soil, water the seeds, and heal the wounds, heal what's hurting. So, introducing, we are starting now as a collective weekly workshops where we are going to